A new species of a human? That's rare, and we do care, particularly because we Homo sapiens have been the only guys on the block for such a long time. Or so we thought. But then in October 2004, a team of Australian and Indonesian archaeologists announced in Nature magazine they had dug up the bones of a brand new, previously unknown humanoid species, which they nicknamed the Hobbit because it was rather small. Here's the revolutionary part. We Homo sapiens got here 200,000 years ago, and by 30,000 years ago, all the other guys, the Neanderthal man with his bad posture, Homo erectus, who was big but not very bright, all of them had disappeared. There was just us. But as we reported last year, the Hobbit lived 18,000 years ago and perhaps far more recently, which means, according to these scientists, that for quite some time on this planet, and not all that long ago, we were not alone. Human history is being rewritten on the Indonesian island of Flores. It is so remote that when you get here, it's not difficult to suspend your disbelief. Anything could have happened here. There are volcanoes which are still active, dragons, the bluest skies and the most relentless rain you've ever seen. Mosaics of rice paddies planted by tribal peoples who move to a beat you'll never hear on MTV.
17,000 islands make up Indonesia.
Yes, we came to Flores with Douglas Hobbs, one of the Australian archaeologists responsible for the discovery. He knows the island well. Over the last 10 years, he's been excavating sites like this limestone cave carved into a mountainside.
This is the cave.
This is it.
It's vast enough to be a cathedral and has the feel of one as well. Dark, cool, and hallowed somehow. The stalactites forming natural altars, not carved by human hands. It is, in fact, an ancient burial ground. And villagers still come here to conduct rituals worshipping their ancestors, which makes it a perfect place to search for them.
The early stuff has got to be in this area here.
The team dug for 3 seasons. Then Hobbs had a hunch and suggested they dig in one corner of the cave. They were down 18 feet when they came upon a skeleton, the likes of which none of them had ever seen before. It was small, so at first they thought they'd found the skeleton of a child. But once they had a really good look, they realized it wasn't a child at all, but a woman, about 30 years old and 3 feet tall.
We decided we discovered a new species.
This must have been an experience of a lifetime for a scientist.
Absolutely. I mean, it was totally unexpected. Totally unexpected.
Totally unexpected because what they were looking for were remains of Aboriginals on their millennia-long journey to Australia.
And so the Hobbit was a real surprise when we found it, I can tell you. It was...
when you found her?
Her, sorry, beg your pardon, her. And the actual skeleton itself was lying in this area along here. The cranium
There were
was
parts
here.
of 7 people, as we might as well call them, and the scientists decided to call them hobbits not only because of their diminutive height, but because of the skull, which had room for a brain the size of a grapefruit, smaller than a chimpanzee brain. Alongside these bones, the remains of giant rats and Komodo dragons were found, as well as those of an animal now extinct called the stegodon. That's an elephant the size of a cow.
Okay, so our skeleton is cohabitating with these small elephants.
Well, they're obviously hunting them. That is what we've concluded. We found quite a lot of the bones of them associated with stone tools in which they'd butchered them with. Plus, we found hearths where they actually would have cooked the food as well.
They knew about fire.
Obviously, this is what we're concluding, that they actually must have known about collective hunting. So this suggests social organisation.
What you are picturing, if I can see into your mind a little bit, is at some point where we're standing now, there were a bunch of very little people sitting around and cooking a very little elephant.
Yes, yes.
And this is how graphic artists working with the team have pictured the Hobbit. Clearly not a dwarf or a pygmy, but a 3-foot-tall species of human. Hobbs, who worked as a consultant with us on the story, believes they may have had a rudimentary form of language.
You have established that there was some pretty complicated behavior going on.
Definitely, yes.
And that's the astounding thing.
Yes.
Astounding because the Hobbit's brain was a third the size of one of ours, and scientists had always used brain size as the most important characteristic separating humans from other animals. That, and the ability to use tools and build fires. The Hobbits may no longer be with us, but the animals they hunted are still here. Komodo dragons are alive and well and hanging out not far from where the young lady's skeleton was found. In fact, their bones, dragon bones from the same period, have been discovered in the Hobbit's immediate proximity.
Now, you say you have evidence that the Hobbits ate the dragons.
Definitely. Yeah,
Professor
definitely.
Mike Morwood is the lead scientist on the Australian team.
How do you think that the Hobbits actually went about getting the dragons?
You walk up to them in the morning when they're still cold before they're warmed up and you bang them on the head. Okay. You wouldn't want to try it when the sun's up and they're warmed up.
And Morwood will tell you when the Komodo dragon arrived on this island, he wasn't nearly as large and lethal as he is now. He was just a small reptile. That happens on islands over the millennia. Small animals get bigger so they can survive better, and big animals get smaller so they can live on less food. Eventually, they evolve into new species, hence the miniature elephant, the stegodon, and now the Hobbit.
Now, what you're saying is that this phenomenon of a species changing size on an island over a period of time, this had been known, but it had never been known as far as humans were concerned.
Correct, correct. It just implies that the same processes act on us as on animals. So it brings us back to being part of the animal kingdom again.
Little animals, little people. Ms. Hobbit lived here, eating her dragons and elephants 18,000 years ago. But people living on the island today will tell you that her descendants were still here very recently. In the hamlets under the volcano, villagers talk in a matter-of-fact way about very little people their grandparents told them about. They wore no clothes, had long arms, and lived in caves high up on the volcano. The village chief told us that the volcano was called Abu Lobo, and the little people were called Abu Gogo, which literally translated means grandma who eats everything.
Abu Lobo, Abu Gogo, manusia, makhluk.
Yeah?
No, Abu Lobo is very big and Abu Gogo is very small.
Jadi Abu Lobo, Abu Gogo tinggal di Abu Lobo.
Yeah.
A few villagers invited us to accompany them on a walk up the volcano to see the ruins of a village where their grandparents lived, where the Abu Gogo, they say, dropped by from time to time. When exactly were the Abu Gogo last seen? They didn't know precisely. Exactly where did they live? In caves, somewhere up this way, a long way. In these parts, going back in time always involves a lot of hard walking. This is the forest primeval. The villagers brought a chicken along, not for lunch, but for a ceremony, a sacrifice when we reached our destination. The ancient village is a shrine now, and the ceremony involved splashing a mixture of coconut milk and chicken blood around a headstone, lighting candles, and invoking the spirits of their ancestors. Then, they talked to us about the Abu Gogo.
What did the Abu Gogo look like?
Dia hanya sebatas 1 meter.
More small.
They were very hairy and short, only about 3 feet high. The women have very long breasts, which they used to throw over their shoulders. They also had very wide mouths.
Were they good people or bad people?
If we think about them, they are not nice people at all. Abu Gogo means very greedy. They used to eat everything. When Abu Gogo come, they make noise like this. And that really scared us.
Why were they bad people, the Abu Gogo?
They used to come to the village grounds and take everything. They came to the house and ate everything. They kidnapped children and took them to their caves. They took one boy named Seto and one girl named Lilo. Until now, we have never seen them.
Legend or memory? Hard to say. But archaeologists are by no means dismissing the stories. Right now, though, they're dealing with other questions. Questions concerning our 18,000-year-old lady from Flores. Digging her up was not the end of her journey, just the beginning.
The bones were taken from Flores to Indonesia's Center for Archaeology here in Jakarta. Very few people even knew of their existence until the Australian scientists published their article in Nature magazine a year later. But then the story took a sudden twist. A prominent Indonesian professor came to the center, packed up the skeleton in a brown leather case, and simply took it away. The 18,000-year-old remains of the lady from Flores became literally bones of contention.
The bones were taken by Dr. Teku Yaakob, the dean of Indonesian paleoanthropologists. He was not a member of the team, and after one look at the lady's teeth, was convinced the conclusions drawn by the Australians were not only premature, they were wrong.
You are convinced that this is not a new species?
Yes. Yeah.
Dr. Yaakob and some other scientists believe that the bones are those of a very small human, a pygmy with a brain-shrinking disease.
When I saw the skull for the first time, I turned it upside down and I saw the teeth. It's very modern and sapiens.
It's the teeth that tell you that this is Homo sapiens.
Yes.
But the scientific community is leaning towards the conclusions reached by the Australians, that the Hobbit is a new, previously undiscovered species. Findings based on CAT scans of the interior of the skull, commissioned by the National Geographic Society, show that the Hobbit's brain was wired in a very intricate way, meaning that despite its small size, it was packed with intelligence.
Now, we, meaning the uneducated, always assumed, I think, that once we, Homo sapiens, came on the scene, there were no other humanoid creatures around. And all of a sudden, it's gotten a lot more complicated.
A lot more complex. There's obviously many more branches to the human tree than we suspected. It's definitely going to change our worldview of ourselves.
When you say it's going to change our worldview of ourselves, you mean these precise findings?
I mean these findings and other findings which will certainly come.
Other findings? In the villages of Flores, the Hobbit, or the Abu Gogo as they call him, come out of the bushes during rituals, scaring the children. But could there be any real hobbits alive today? Maybe not on the island of Flores, but remember, there are 17,000 islands in Indonesia. Some very serious scientists don't exclude the possibility. They believe it may be time to start looking. But while they're looking, the battle over their findings continues to rage. Last month, a new study criticized the Australians for poor science and concluded that the Hobbit was in fact a human with a brain-shrinking disease. The Australians, though, are still adamant that they're right and are remaining faithful to their Hobbit.
Right now at Red Lobster, create your own summer seafood feast. Choose 2 or 3 favorites like sweet snow crab or crunch fried shrimp, or try new